If your faith is under attack, it might be because your faith is the key that would unlock the freedom of others. The resistance is confirmation that the ground you're standing on is worth fighting for. It's important to see resistance for what it really is. Because if you don't, you'll start mislabeling it. You'll call it punishment when it's actually preparation. You'll see it as abandonment when it's actually alignment. You'll start thinking God has left you when really He's equipping you. The enemy would love nothing more than for you to misinterpret resistance as a signal to quit. But the truth is, resistance is a signal to press on. Resistance is the proof that you are carrying something heavy enough to make an impact. Consider a seed being planted in the soil. The very first experience of that seed breaking out of its shell is resistance. Soil pressing down, the darkness surrounding it, the weight of earth above it. If the seed could feel, it would think, I'm being buried. But what looks like burial is actually planting. What looks like resistance is actually the condition for growth. Without that weight, without that pressure, without that push, the seed could never sprout into what it was created to be. In the same way, the resistance you feel is not there to bury you. It's there to grow you. Every time you face resistance, you have two choices. You can shrink back, or you can rise up. Shrinking back will always feel easier in the moment. Quitting always feels easier at first. But what you don't see is that quitting keeps you stuck in the cycle. You escape today's pressure, but you surrender tomorrow's promise. Rising up, on the other hand, doesn't make the pressure go away immediately. In fact, it can feel even heavier at times. But rising up strengthens your spirit. Rising up builds your faith. Rising up reminds the enemy that you know who you are, and you know whose you are. The resistance is confirmation because it proves that you're making progress. If you were standing still, nothing would push against you. If you were living without purpose, the enemy would leave you alone. The reason the attacks feel relentless is because you're moving forward. It's because you're carrying influence. It's because your obedience has a ripple effect far greater than you can see right now. Sometimes you don't realize how much your faith matters until you see how fiercely it is fought against. This is why it's so important to reframe the way you see opposition. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Begin asking, what is this confirming about me? Instead of wondering if you're on the wrong path, start believing that maybe you're on the right one. Resistance can be reframed as evidence that you are walking in alignment with your calling. The very weight that feels like it's crushing you may actually be the sign that you're carrying something valuable. Think about the moments in life when you've been on the edge of breakthrough. Right before you stepped into that opportunity, didn't the pressure feel unbearable? Right before you took that leap of faith, didn't the voices of doubt get louder than ever? Right before something shifted, didn't you feel like giving up? That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. The enemy loves to launch his strongest attack right before God's greatest release. And if you don't recognize resistance as confirmation, you'll end up quitting in the very place you were supposed to conquer. When resistance shows up, instead of retreating, let it remind you of what's at stake. Let it remind you of what you've been called to do. Let it remind you that something valuable is being contended for in your life. The fact that you're feeling opposition might be the clearest sign yet that you're in the right place, moving in the right direction, and carrying the right assignment. The enemy is strategic. He does not waste his efforts where there is no threat. He does not fight in areas that have no future. He does not invest his energy in things that don't matter. If you ever wondered why certain parts of your life are attacked more than others, it is because the enemy sees the potential there. He sees what you could become if you kept moving forward. He sees what you could build if you stayed faithful. He sees the ripple effect your obedience could have if you didn't give up. The enemy knows he doesn't need to destroy everything. He only needs to weaken the places that carry the most weight for your destiny. That is why his attacks are selective, targeted, and persistent. He aims at your potential because if he can cut it off early, it never has the chance to grow into what God designed it to be. Think about it in practical terms. A thief doesn't break into an empty house. He doesn't risk his time and freedom for something that has no value. He goes after what is worth stealing. The same is true spiritually. The enemy doesn't spend time attacking you where there is nothing to gain. He's not after the parts of your life that don't carry impact. He's after the parts that are dangerous to him. He wants to rob you of the very thing God placed in you, to bring light into darkness. He knows your potential before you do. And so he moves in to choke it, distract it, discourage it, and stop it before it blossoms. Look at the stories of people who are used mightily. Often their greatest battles came in the area of their calling. The one chosen to lead feels unqualified to speak. The one called to set others free feels trapped in cycles. The one destined to bring hope battles despair. That is not coincidence. That is the strategy of an enemy who knows that if you step into your God-given lane, you will disrupt his plans. That's why he targets potential. He knows you don't have to be fully there yet. He just needs to keep you doubting long enough so you never take the first step. Potential is always uncomfortable because it's about what is not yet visible. You can feel it inside, but you don't always see it outside. That gap is where the enemy whispers. He tells you the gap means you're not chosen. He tells you the struggle means you're not gifted. He tells you the delay means you're disqualified. But he lies because he knows if you recognize that the attack is actually a sign of what's inside you, you would push harder instead of shrinking back. If you understood that the opposition was proof that you're dangerous to the kingdom of darkness, you wouldn't be discouraged. You'd be encouraged. The enemy doesn't fight potential. He doesn't fear. The very fact that you're under attack is evidence that you carry something worth fighting against. He comes for your identity because he knows if you walk in who God made you to be, you become unstoppable. He comes for your faith because he knows if you keep believing, mountains will move. He comes for your relationship because he knows what 2 or 3 in agreement can accomplish. He comes for your mind because he knows a renewed mind is a powerful weapon. Every targeted attack is an indicator of hidden treasure. There is something in you the enemy wants to suffocate. He doesn't mind you existing. He minds you advancing. He doesn't mind you surviving. He minds you thriving. He doesn't mind you believing a little. He minds you walking in bold faith. That's why the attack feels personal. Because it is. It's against your potential. Future. It's against the calling that has the power to impact not only you, but everyone connected to you. And here is the critical shift in perspective. You don't have to wait until your potential is fully realized to be a threat. The fact that it's inside you already makes the enemy nervous. That's why the fight often begins before you even step fully into your purpose. He's trying to scare you away before you ever arrive. He wants to make you so weary in the preparation stage that you never step into the fulfillment stage. But if you can understand that his attacks are actually an indirect compliment, you will start to see them differently. You'll realize he's not fighting you because you're weak. He's fighting you because you're strong. He's not targeting you because you're worthless. He's targeting you because you're priceless. He's not attacking you because you're irrelevant. He's attacking you because you're significant. When you begin to notice where the enemy targets most, you can begin to discern what matters most in your life. The places he presses hardest are often the places of greatest promise. The dreams he tries to distort are often the ones you're meant to pursue. The relationships he tries to break are often the ones that would bring the most fruit. The area he covers in lies is often the very area where the truth would set you free. The enemy targets potential, but if you see it clearly, his very attacks become a map that points to what matters most. When you carry something from God, you will discover that gifts don't just attract admiration. They attract opposition. The moment you begin to walk in your assignment, the presence of giants becomes unavoidable. That's because greatness is never released without resistance. Gifts are not neutral. They disrupt the status quo. They carry a weight that shifts atmospheres and threatens systems. So the enemy stirs up giants to intimidate you, to make you feel too small, too unqualified, too overwhelmed to move forward. Giants show up to convince you that the gift inside you is not enough, when in reality, their very presence is proof that you are carrying something powerful enough to threaten their territory. Consider how battles have always been fought. A giant doesn't appear where there's nothing to lose. Goliath did not taunt Israel until they began to line up for battle. He wasn't standing in the field waiting for farmers or shepherds. He was waiting for warriors because he knew their potential to win. In the same way, giants show up in your life, not because you are weak, but because you are on the verge of stepping into a place of influence. The attacks intensify the moment your gift starts to find expression. The temptation increases the moment your obedience gets serious. The criticism multiplies the moment your voice begins to carry weight. These giants aren't accidents. They are assignments meant to intimidate you. What many people don't realize is that a giant often stands guard over your next level. To step into it, you have to face what scares you most. It might be fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. It might be the weight of past mistakes that tries to disqualify you. It might be the constant comparison to others that makes you shrink. Those are giants. They are loud. They are intimidating. But they are also confirmation that you are in the right place. Because if there was no promise on the other side, there would be no giant blocking the way. The pattern repeats throughout life. The higher the calling, the bigger the giant. The greater the gift, the stronger the opposition. It's a law in the spiritual realm. And yet every giant that appears is also an opportunity to prove the power of God working in you. The giant comes with a sword, but you have a stone. The giant comes with a shield, but you have faith. The giant comes with height and strength, but you come with the name of the Lord. And when you understand that, you stop fearing giants and start seeing them as stepping stones, because every giant defeated becomes a testimony. Every battle fought becomes part of your story. Every obstacle overcome becomes proof that the gift inside you is greater than the resistance in front of you. Think about what happens when you avoid giants. You might save yourself from the fight, but you also forfeit the victory. You escape the pressure, but you also lose the growth. You protect yourself from failure, but you also rob yourself of the chance to experience God's power. Avoiding giants feels safe, but it keeps you small. Facing giants feels risky, but it enlarges your capacity. The enemy knows this, which is why he amplifies their voices. He wants you to hear their taunts louder than God's promises. He wants you to see their size bigger than your faith. He wants you to magnify their weapons instead of remembering your gift. That's why giants talk so much. They win when you quit before the fight even begins. But here's the truth. Your gift is designed for giant territory. It wasn't given to you to sit idle in the background. It wasn't deposited in you so you could play it safe. Gifts were meant to be stretched. They were meant to face challenges that draw out their full potential. You will never know how powerful your gift really is until it is tested in battle. That is why giants appear where gifts are present. The enemy wants to bury your gift under fear, but God allows giants to awaken it. He allows you to see that what you carry is more than enough. There is also something about giants that reveals identity. When David faced Goliath, everyone else saw an enemy too big to fight. David saw an opportunity too important to miss. What made the difference was perspective. David didn't see himself as a boy with no chance. He saw himself as chosen, anointed, and backed by God. Giants have a way of exposing how you see yourself as too small. too weak, too unworthy? Or do you see yourself as a child of God, gifted, equipped, and prepared for the fight? The gift inside you can only be activated when you align your perspective with God's truth. So every time a giant rises in your life, pay attention. Don't just look at how big it is. Look at what it's guarding. Don't just listen to its threats. Listen to what it fears. Giants roar loudest when they are closest to defeat. They stand tallest right before they fall. They are stubborn because they know once you rise up and swing what God placed in your hand, their reign of intimidation ends. And when that giant comes down, something shifts not only in your life, but in the lives of all who are watching. Giants aren't just obstacles. They are platforms. They set the stage for your gift to be revealed and for God's glory to be displayed through you. When God calls you, He doesn't just see who you are right now. He sees who you will become. He doesn't just see the present version of you. He already factored in the future version, with all the struggles, flaws, and battles you would face along the way. That means nothing you are going through catches Him off guard. The weight you feel, the battles you fight, the resistance you face, none of it surprises Him. Before He placed the calling on your life, He calculated the cost. Before He entrusted you with the assignment, He measured the strength He would supply. God factored in the battle before He released the blessing. So often we think of battles as interruptions, like they're detours from the path we were meant to walk. We believe if God really called us, the way should be easier. If God really anointed us, the doors should swing open effortlessly. If God really chose us, we shouldn't feel so tired, so stretched, so attacked. But what if the very opposite is true? What if the presence of the battle doesn't disprove the calling but validates it? What if the fight is not outside of God's plan but woven into it? God knows what you're up against. He knew it when He called you, and He still said yes. Think about how any builder works. Before construction begins, a builder studies the weight the structure will need to carry. He chooses the right materials. He makes sure the foundation is strong enough. In the same way, God did not call you without calculating the weight of your purpose. He didn't send you out without preparing you for the opposition that would meet you. He already measured the pressure and matched it with the capacity He placed inside you. That's why you've been able to endure what you thought would break you. That's why you're still standing when others expected you to collapse. God factored in every battle long before you even knew it was coming. Sometimes we imagine that God calls us to a path and then adjusts His plan based on how life unfolds. We think He sees our struggles and has to figure out what to do next. But that is not how God works. He is not improvising. He is not caught by surprise. Every tear you've cried, every obstacle you faced, every failure you've walked through, it was all accounted for when He wrote your story. He called you with full knowledge of your weakness. He anointed you with complete awareness of your flaws. He chose you with every battle already written into the plan. That means your current struggle is not evidence of disqualification. It is evidence of divine preparation. He fights your family because family is the legacy you will leave behind. He fights your mind because your thoughts are the steering wheel of your destiny. He fights your confidence because confidence is what empowers you to step boldly into what God has placed in front of you. The location of the fight is not random. It's the map that leads to the heart of your calling. And often, the reason we feel the fight so intensely is because the calling is not just for us. It's for others. Your assignment has ripple effects that touch lives you don't even know yet. Your calling carries influence that could shift entire atmospheres. So when the enemy fights you, he's not just fighting you, he's fighting everyone who would benefit from your obedience. He's fighting the people who would be healed because of your testimony. He's fighting the lives that would be restored because of your faithfulness. He's fighting the generations that would be transformed because you decided not to quit. The fight is bigger than you, which is why the pressure feels so heavy. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. The fight is also proof. It's proof that there is something in you worth resisting. It's proof that you are standing on territory that is significant. It's proof that your calling is so real, so weighty, so impactful, that hell itself feels threatened by your obedience. The enemy doesn't bother to fight what doesn't matter. He only sends his strongest attacks against what carries the greatest purpose. So when you feel the fight pressing hardest in one area, instead of asking, "Why me?" start asking, "Why here?" Because the aware of the attack often reveals the what of the calling. This is why battles should not always discourage you. They can actually direct you. They can show you where to focus your prayers, your energy, and your obedience. They can reveal the exact places where breakthrough is on the horizon. If the enemy is fighting your peace, then your peace must be powerful. If he's fighting your voice, then your words must carry influence. If he's fighting your future, future must be worth protecting. Instead of letting the fight make you feel weak, let it remind you that you're standing in the right place. You are in contested territory because you are in called territory. When you see the fight this way, it changes everything. You stop running from the battle and start standing in it. You stop doubting your worth and start realizing your value. You stop believing that resistance is punishment and start seeing it as confirmation. The very presence of the fight becomes a reminder that you are chosen, equipped, and positioned for victory. What the enemy meant to use as intimidation becomes instead a signpost of destiny. So if you've been weary under the weight of the fight, let this truth sink deep into your heart. The fight marks the calling. The opposition is not random. The pressure is not pointless. The enemy attacks hardest in the area where God has called you to walk in power. That means the very thing you've been doubting about yourself may be the very thing God wants to use most. The very ground you've been tempted to surrender may be the very ground God has already promised you. The very battle you're fighting today may be the birthplace of your greatest breakthrough tomorrow. Don't give up just because the fight is fierce. Don't surrender just because the enemy is loud. Don't walk away just because the ground feels contested. If the fight marks the calling, then every attack is a sign that you are closer than you think. Every battle is a signal that your destiny is worth contending for. And every giant standing in your way is a reminder that there is treasure on the other side. Keep standing, keep pressing, keep believing, because the fight doesn't mean you're losing. It means you're chosen. And if God has called you, no attack can cancel what He has declared over your life.